Welcome to Verbal Prick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are every day. People like to welcome y'all to the show. Look, man, I have to say the V word because it seems like whenever I say vaccination, they ban me from YouTube. I don't know what that is. I get a 2 to 3 week suspension, So I'm saying the V word. Man, I'm not finna let these people control me. This show is about vaccination here. I take the 2 week, 3 week suspension because speak truth to power, and why we can't tell our people the truth the way we see fit. I ain't bowing down to these people. This is Verbal Prick Radio. We on Spreaker anyway. Though if they ban me, go to Spreaker, look up Verbal Prick Radio on the Spreaker app, and we'll go from there. Some kind of way we'll get it here. And another thing. Man, black people, will y'all stop singing Amazing Grace? God, you free now. I don't know what that is. I mean, time of tragedy come. Seem like white folk will find, they don't matter who it is. They will find anybody black, put them on stage, the room gets quiet, and all you hear is, Amazing Grace. Like, come on, man. I don't know. I'm just saying, man. Maybe I'm tripping. But it's like, wow, man. Get the slave out your voice. Shit. It's 2021. Anyway, check this out. I'm going to prove my point, right? I'm going to prove my point on this show. Whenever white people are going through something, and they need a solution to the problem, they need a cure to the ailment, they always will experiment on black or brown to make sure it works, the guinea pigs. And, after a few botched tries, after a while, through practice and the damage that's caused to the guinea pig, i.e. the black or brown. Then once they perfect it, then they try it out on their people, and then, they go on and live happily ever after. But when you turn around and look at the ones that they experimented on, they all broke up and messed up and left behind no compensation. And it is what it is, and hey, what can you do? And so, Brother Wesley Muhammad did a great lecture on vaccination last Sunday. You can go to NOI.org and check out what he did, which was brilliant. But I want to take you into this man, born in 1813, name was James Marion Sims, right? Who later went on to become a doctor, right? Now, Sims began his practice in Lancaster. He later relocated to Montgomery, Alabama, seeking a fresh start after the death of his first 2 patients, right? He just want to be a doctor, experimenting on people, killing them, moving to different places. And we like, wow. You able to do that? Well, let's find out why he was able to do that and who he was working on, right? It was in Montgomery that Sims built his reputation among rich white plantation owners by treating their enslaved workers, right? Hint that, right? Enslaved workers. If you working for free, you're a slave, right? If you enslaved and you working, you're a slave working for free. If they move the term slave out the picture and said unpaid worker, it's still the same thing. I just wanted to put that out there, right? According to Vanessa Gamble, University Professor of Medical Humanities at George Washington University, Sims' practice was deeply rooted in the trade for enslaved people. Sims built an 8-person hospital in the heart of the trading district in Montgomery. While most health care took place on the plantations, some stubborn cases were brought to physicians like Sims, who patched up enslaved workers so they could produce and reproduce for their masters again. Otherwise, they were useless to their owners. This brings up the concept of soundness, says Gamma. Being sound meant they produce for men and women and reproduce for women. For these women, having this fistula made them less sound. Like most doctors in the 19th century, Sims originally had little interest in treating female patients and no specific gynecology training. Indeed, examining and treating female organs was widely considered offensive and unsavory. But his interest in treating women changed when he was asked to help a patient who had fallen off a horse and was suffering from pelvic and back pain. To treat this woman's injury, Sims realized he needed to look directly into her vagina. He positioned her on all fours, leaning forward, and then used his fingers to help him see inside. This discovery helped him develop the precursor to the modern speculum, the bent handle of a pewter spoon, P-E-W-T or pewter spoon. From his examination, Sims could see that the patient had a vesico-vaginal fistula. With no known cure for the ailment, Sims began experimenting in 1845 with surgical techniques to treat such fistulas. If the patient's owner provided clothing and paid taxes, Sims effectively took temporary ownership of the woman until her treatment was completed. He later reflected in his autobiography, The Story of My Life, on the advantages he found to working on people that were essentially his property. There was never a time that I could not at any day have had a subject for operation, according to Sims. This was the most memorable time of his life. Now, he falls in the ranks of Henrietta Lacks experiment, but we'll get that down the line. Sims wrote that the woman had clamored for the operations to relieve their discomfort, but whether they consented or not was never captured in any other historical record. As Bettina Judd, assistant professor of gender, women, and sexuality studies at the University of Washington, points out, consent isn't always about whether you can say yes, it's also whether you can say no. Today we know 3 of the names of the female fistula patients from Sims' own records: Lucy, Antarctica, and Betsy. The first one he operated on was 18 years old. Her name was Lucy, who had given birth a few months prior and hadn't been able to control her bladder since. During the procedure, patients were completely naked and asked to perch on their knees and bend forward onto their elbows so their heads rested on their hands. Lucy endured an hour-long surgery, screaming and crying, out in pain, as nearly a dozen other doctors watched. As Sims later wrote, Lucy's agony was extreme. She became extremely ill due to his controversial use of a sponge to drain the urine away from the bladder, which led her to contract blood poisoning. I thought she was going to die. It took Lucy 2 or 3 months to recover entirely from the effects of the operation, he wrote. For a long time, Sims' fistula surgeries were not successful. After 30 operations on one woman, a 17-year-old enslaved woman named Antarctica, who had a very traumatic labor and delivery, he finally perfected his method. After 4 years of experimentation afterward, he began to practice on white women using anesthesia, which was new at the time. Right? So black folks was a guinea pig. They used the slave to guinea pig until they perfected whatever procedure they was trying. Then it was safe enough to try on white women, right? Now these were black women. Don't get caught up when they say enslaved. These were black women. Your ancestors, your great-great-great-grandmothers, right? While some doctors didn't trust anesthesia, Sam's decision to not use it or any other numbing technique was based on his misguided belief that black people didn't experience pain like white people did. It's a notion that persists today. They think it's like this. You got some medication that, that will cause ease going into surgery, right? But, doctors saying, okay, well, these insurance companies are going to charge me for this medication, and they're going to charge the patient. So what I'll do is I'll use a third of it on the black patients, and then I'll keep the remaining that I can use later and profit off of. You know how one of my wealthy friends might need something. They'll pay me a percentage or a price that I ask for, and then I give it to them because I don't have to give the whole dose to black people because they got a higher threshold for pain, right? Wow, that's their mentality. Okay. While some doctors didn't trust anesthesia, Sam's decision to not use it or any other numbing technique was based on his misguided belief that black people didn't experience pain like white people did. It's a notion that persists today. According to a study conducted at the University of Virginia and published in April the 4th, 2016. Wow. Writer and medical enthusiast Harriet Washington says Sam's racist beliefs affected more than his gynecological experiments. Before and after his gynecological experiments, he also tested surgical treatments on enslaved black children in an effort to treat trismus, nascentium, or neonatal tetanus, with little to no success. Sims also believed that African Americans were less intelligent than white people and thought it was because their skulls grew too quickly around their brain. These are the same people that stormed the Capitol building, that urinated on the floor and defecated in the Capitol building. These are the same people who was causing the bubonic plague, was trying to practice medicine, being a doctor, and wasn't washing their hands and was killing people. Oh, Lord have mercy. When they was doing brain surgery in Egypt. Come on, man. But let's keep going, though. He would operate on African American children using a shoemaker's tool to pry their bones apart and loosen their skulls. And they wonder why black people are so hesitant when it comes to their health and dealing with these people. Wow. Let me read that again. Wow. Man. He would operate on African American children using a shoemaker's tool to pry their bones apart and loosen their skulls. In the 1850s, Sims moved to New York and opened the first ever women's hospital where he continued testing controversial medical treatments on his patients. When any of Sims' patients died, the blame, according to him, lay squarely with the sloth and ignorance of their mothers and the black midwives who attended them. He did not believe anything was wrong with his method. After somebody died, he blamed it on them, on their intelligence. I mean, this is what we dealing with. Say, man, I'm just saying. Sims' practices ignited controversy during his lifetime, says Washington. The medical community debated his methods, and some of his white colleagues even openly objected to his experiments, saying he took things too far. And his name is still mentioned in the medical field. Wow, man. I'm saying, look, we've been through a lot. Dr. Sims' experiment, trying to be a gynecologist. Tuskegee experiment. The inappropriate way of how they dealt with Henrietta Lacks. Come on, man. I mean, and then when black people say, I'm not too inclined to stick my arm out and take this vaccine, man. Y'all history is jacked up, right? So then they'll put a black person out front and say, hey, get the vaccine. Right. But the problem with that is that, see, silence. Y'all think that since black people are quiet on certain issues, that they don't really understand what's going on, that they don't see what's happening. Y'all got it all wrong. All wrong. One, black people understand that the black people who you put out in front and to do your bidding, or the black people that you put out front to carry the message, put it like that, to bring the message to black people, they look at your background and they say, well, this person's part of this organization, they part of this secret society. Then they put two and two together. Well, most blacks that are part of certain societies or certain organizations, their job is to go back and find out what's going on within the community and then go back and report to their slave masters. Or their job is to carry the message of the slave master and deliver it to black communities. Now, I already know this. So they sit back to see which one of y'all they going to throw out there to come and deliver a message, right? Then you notice, once they send you out there and you go book dance and carry the message, then you understand, you start wondering, wow, man, why my sales is dropping? What's going on? Why I'm losing favor? What's happening? Because the people already know. The people already know when they'll tell you, look here, we want you to make a movie. We even fund the movie, right? We even give you this amount of percentage within this movie, right? But you're gonna have to create a negative narrative against Mr. Farrakhan or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, especially when it's dealing with Malcolm X. We want to turn it because we want to break the power that the Nation of Islam has upon the community. I mean, it's an old playbook, old game. I mean, it's been done so long that people start laughing when they see it, right? And they think, okay, well, look, okay, this is good. So they say, well, you know what? We got to get somebody who the community feel like it's one of them there, who feels like they just down for the cause, they from the streets, they from the ghetto, they can relate to the people, they down, they know how to say the slang at the appropriate time, and you know what I mean? We got to get them in front of the people, we through dealing with you uptight, too tight Negro. We need the ones who can appeal to the streets to deliver our message now, right? And, and they pull them in. Look, you've been struggling for a long time getting, all these hood roles and whatnot. Why don't you, when you like to star on side of, say, the likes of Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, or when you like to be in the movie with some of the greats, well, look, this is what I need you to do. If you do this one well, we need you to do this. You need you to do the modern Hollywood shuffle, right? And we need you to create something negative on these people and say these lines, right? And once you do that, we'll bring you up, and there's money in it for you. You know how the game goes. Then they go out there and do it. you know, thinking that they got a friend, but in the end they realize they didn't have a friend to start with, you know. But it's part of the game. You can't blame the game. You know, you can blame the victim of the game when they know the game and they allow themselves to be a victim or to be used as a tool. You know, but we know who wrote the script, right? And I know it's difficult because they say, well, how can this person eat if they don't do what they say? They got to make a living too. Wow, I'm just saying, man. Wow, you know, as I always state, part of the game. But this Dr. Sims is just putting his rotten, nasty caveman fingers out on black women's vaginas simply because he could, due to slavery, and there was nothing they could do about it. All right? Practicing on them. Some died in the process. Using a shoemaker's tool to pry on the skull of black children. I'm just saying. The only reason why I'm stating this is because they tell a story of what took place with Dr. Sims, right? But the Help Society, right? No one never came out and apologized for Dr. Sims' acting. They don't make you feel like they genuinely or they genuinely are seeking forgiveness for the horrific treatment guys under the title of what they represent or what represents America. That the Health Society as a banner. What's under that banner? If you practicing medicine under that banner and you representing that banner, give an apology. Because that's unhumane. What took place with the Tuskegee experiment with syphilis and what Dr. Sims did to these black women. So to show that you are humane, you would do the right thing and give an apology. But if you feel like you too above black people or you always trying to shoot black people to high hat, then when there's a time of need, like we need you to, why don't you, we like, man, I don't know, because I don't know your motives. I don't want to get caught up in your motives. I'm skeptical. Come on. It's like the black man who 16 years old might have committed a small misdemeanor, right? And they tell him, well, when you get 18, deferred adjudication, get you a lawyer and you can have it expunged from your record, right? So you 18, 19, 20, 21. You go out for a job interview and they come back and tell you, well, we're sorry, we can't hire you because when you were 16, so-and-so showed up on your record back and so-and-so. It follows is what I'm saying. It follows that young black man. It follows you for life, bruh. That's one of the purposes of this show and these films and movies and documentaries and songs and that we pour our heart out into is to show you that you have to make wise decisions because the decisions that you make will follow you for life. Them people don't forget. Them people don't. They'll tell y'all, don't worry about it. It's gonna go away. You go, man. That shit will ride you. You will be turned down. You like, man. I was 16. It wasn't my fault. I made a mistake. No, right? But then when we say, look, man, what y'all did in slavery. Look what y'all did with the Tuskegee experiment. Look what Dr. Sims did to these black women. And they say, well, that was the past. Why you keep bringing up the past? Come on, you too uptight. You got to learn to let things go so people can live and enjoy their lives. And we like, huh? Man, y'all ride us for one mistake to the end of our days on this planet. And